Hey everyone, I hope I'm audible to all of you guys. And thanks for joining. Let's wait for another few minutes. We will exactly start the session at 11:05, and today we'll be discussing about JavaScript. Great. All right then, guys. Sorry for the delay, and we will start for the day. Great. So, firstly, I would like to apologize because there's a lot of delay between the last episode and today's episode because there are a lot of exams for juniors as well, and there are event preparations for VITAP, and then it got cancelled, it got postponed, and so there are a lot of things happening, right? So, we cannot conduct an event or episode 4 in between this time. So, due to which there's a lot of delay between the episode 3 and episode 4. But nevertheless, today's episode is not going to be related to anything that we have discussed in the past few sessions because today's episode does not require any prerequisite. Okay. And today we will be talking about JavaScript, guys. Okay. JavaScript is a programming language, so it has nothing to do with HTML or CSS. Okay. We will talk about how JavaScript is useful in programming, one thing. And the second thing is how we can use JavaScript to actually interact with the HTML and CSS that we write. Okay. I mean, JavaScript can be used in both programming as well as web development. Okay. So guys, programming is completely different. I mean, using JavaScript, you can solve the most complicated programming problems. Like you can also use JavaScript for data structures and algorithms, but we are not going to look at that. But we will take a look at the basics of JavaScript. Okay, and then we'll start diving into the web development part of how JavaScript is used in web development. All right. So, yep, let me just reshare my screen and great. So, guys, when we talk about the history of JavaScript, there is a lot. Okay, there is so much to talk about, and we have a lot of JavaScript versions coming up in last 20 years, and there is a lot of things happening in JavaScript. Okay, but there are a lot of slides that I've created take a history lesson for you guys today because it's gonna bore you guys. So we will talk about the history of JavaScript later on. But for now, let me just explain you why do we need JavaScript. Okay, let me go to my browser and let me show you guys why do we JavaScript. Okay, it's an interesting question. So whenever you start learning something, you have to ask yourself why you are learning this. Okay, it's a because if you okay, you will understand why you're learning it. Okay, I always follow this top-down approach where I visualize what I can do with this technology in the future before I start learning about the technology, and then I start learning it from the very scratch. Okay, it's a top-down approach. I usually follow this approach, and it helped me the most, and I believe it will also help with why do we need JavaScript, guys. So let me go to amazon.com or amazon.in, anything. Okay, so I'm in Amazon. So guys, if you can see, the Amazon website is still loading. Oh yeah, no, it's perfect. So yeah, if you guys can see, this website might not be the same as how it looks for you guys. So if I search a lot about gaming stuff and all of those, and if you can see, I'm also searched about PCs and all of those stuff, toys and whatever that is. So this depends upon the page that has. So if you can see this images, and this page may not be looking the same for some other people. Okay, and so this is Amazon.com, but if I go to Amazon.in, the page looks very different. Okay, the page looks glasses, monitors, books. So this is how my page looks, my Amazon.in page looks. But if you log into your account in your Amazon.in, your page might look very different, right? Your recommendations will be different. Your product suggestions will be different. Your account profile will be different. The name or XYZ person, right? So it looks very different. But guys, whatever it is completely written in HTML and CSS. Okay. Now let us suppose say I click on this product. Okay, so I click on this product and I will add. Okay, it's taking a while, but yeah. Now if I go check my cart, I will have this product in my cart. Okay. Now, do you think someone from Amazon, some web developer from Amazon, wrote code to in order to update the update my cart? So as you can see, this product has been added to my cart, right? So do you think some Amazon guy just now in few minutes he just wrote the HTML CSS code so that the book can be added to the cart? No, right? That's not how it works. I mean, if you look at uh, the product suggestions page in the home page, this might appear different ways to different people. Okay. Okay. So this might appear differently for different people. Okay. And this has been written with HTML HTML. Okay. And this will appear different for the different people. Okay. Let me just clarify as well. The home page appears different for opinions. Will have different product suggestions based on their opinions and based on what they like, right? So that's all. What's important to know is that Amazon developers will not write HTML, CSS, JS code in for every user separately. Okay, so that's how it works. Let me just reconnect again. Okay, I think it's better for you guys now. Great. Okay, so like I told you guys, Amazon developers will not write HTML, CSS, JS code separately for every user separately. Instead, what they do is that they basically maintain developers at Amazon write HTML, CSS templates, which will be injected using JavaScript for every different user. Okay. So this is how it works. Okay, so developers at Amazon basically write HTML CSS templates. Okay, they will not write HTML CSS code every now and then for every different user that signs up for Amazon. Okay, that will become a very hectic job, right? So what they do is that developers and Amazon, they basically write HTML CSS templates which will be injected into the website using the with the help of JavaScript. Okay, with the help of JavaScript. So this is the final thing of how JavaScript okay. And another thing JavaScript actually is more useful is where JavaScript actually provides you with the functionality of the website. Okay, we'll talk about more applications of JavaScript in the future. Okay, and yeah, so let's get started with writing some code. Okay, I don't want to bore you guys more. Okay. And yeah, so here if you can see, there are 3 steps to get started writing with HTML code. Okay, the very first step is you have to create a HTML page, and then you have to create a JS page. Okay, and then you have to import the JS page that you have created into your HTML page. Okay, these are the 3 steps. Okay, perfect. Now we will just start doing this. Okay, let me take you guys to the File Explorer. So this is the project files that I've been working for this this is my working directory for the start the web folder. Okay, now I will just create a new folder saying learn JS. JS is just the short form of JavaScript. Okay, and if I click on JS, now guys, this folder I want to open it in my Visual Studio Code. So what do? I basically click on here and I open CMD. So that is one way of opening the command terminal from an empty folder or whatever the folder that is. Another way is that you go to that specific folder, you right click there and you click here, click this option which is open in terminal. Okay. Now if you click on open in terminal, that file path, that directory will be opened in the terminal. Okay. Right now you have to open this folder in the Visual Studio Code. This is a shortcut and it's an easy way. Okay. You have to just type in code space dot. Okay, firstly you have to open that, you have to make sure that you are in the same directory that in the terminal as it shows. Okay, and then you have to type in code space dot. Okay, if you click enter, Visual Studio Code will open. Okay, I can close the terminal now, it's not needed. Okay, so if you can see, the Visual Studio Code is open. So guys, let's try to let's follow the steps from the PPT. It is asking me to create first HTML page. Okay, let's first create the HTML page. All right, I will create index.html. Okay. Okay, I just created the index.html. Now what I can do is I can just simply type in exclamatory mark to generate the entire boilerplate, guys. So if you guys remember in the beginning sessions, I told you guys about the HTML, which is uh, hypertext markup language, and in order to get started with HTML, we basically have to type in a lot of boilerplate, basically like the dog type HTML, the body tag, the head tag, and the title sections and all of those. So but you can generate automatically all of these sections, the boilerplate, with the help of this shortcut. So all you have to do is you just have to type in the exclamatory mark. Okay, I hope you can see. You have to type in the exclamatory mark, and as you can see, the VS Code is suggesting me these 2 options. I have to click on this first option, which is the first exclamatory mark. So if I click here, as you can see, the boilerplate has been generated for me. Okay, I will just close this file explorer. You can close the file explorer by clicking on the explorer. Okay, it will be closed. All right. Now it has generated me this entire boilerplate. These 2 tags are not needed, but you can keep it. I don't want to confuse you guys, so I have removed it. All right, this is how the boilerplate looks, right? So you have a doc type HTML on the top, and then you have a HTML tag opening and the closing HTML tag. Okay, and then you have the head tag here in which the SEO related stuff is included, and then the body tag. And so inside the body tag, what's a body tag? A body tag is basically a place where all of your the content, the visual content that you see on a website show up, right? So that's a body tag. All right. Now, I hope you guys are here with me so far. I hope you guys have just created the HTML page and generated the boilerplate. And now let's try to run this web page by adding a heading one. This is okay. Welcome to JavaScript session. All right, so I just created a heading. Okay, now I will try to run this index.html file. How do I do it? On the bottom right, there is something called as go live server. So guys, if you don't know about how to run a HTML file, you have to do it using the live server. In order to run it using the live server, you have to go to extensions and click on and search for live server. So extensions is nothing but it's like a marketplace. As you can see, it is saying extensions as a marketplace. It is the place where you will find a lot of third-party packages for your Visual Studio Code that will enhance the way you write code. Okay. So if you click on this live server, you have to install it. I already installed it. I already told you guys multiple times about this live server. I hope all of you guys have already have it installed. And once you install it, this option will show up here. This option will show up here. Now I have to make sure that I am in the right index.html file opened in my Visual Studio Code, and I have to click on the go live button. All right, it's working and it's perfectly working fine. Okay, now we are done with the first thing, which is creating the HTML page. Now we have to create the JavaScript page. How do we do it? Okay, so let's see how we can create the JavaScript file. So guys, for creating a HTML file, we just created using the .html extension, right? So for JavaScript file, what do you think the extension is? Is it .javascript? Is it .java? Well, it's simple. It is just index.js. JS stands for JavaScript. Okay. So as you can see, Visual Studio Code is automatically adding an icon, JS icon to your file. VS Code just recognized that this is a JavaScript file. Okay. And yeah, so this is a JavaScript file. Okay. And you have to import this JavaScript file. We are done with the second step, which is creating a JS file. Now in the third step, we have to import this JS file to the HTML file. How do we do it? Okay, let's go to the next slide. So guys, here it is. The heading is clear that importing script file into HTML. So guys, when I say HTML, when I say script file or JavaScript file, I'm referring to the same thing. Those both words are the same. Okay. So here it says use the script tag. So I think you guys already know about tags, right? Tags in HTML. In HTML, there are tags and attributes. Okay. So here they're saying use the script tag right above the closing body tag. Okay, let's see how it works. Let's go to the VS Code and let me close the file explorer, and now it just told me that I have to use a script tag right above my closing body tag. So this is my closing body tag, right? So I have to use the scripts there. So I will open the script tag and I will close it. So yeah, my script tag is opened and closed. So I hope you guys know about the different types of tags in HTML. Okay. There are opening tags and closing tags, and there are something called as self-closing tags. And one of the examples of self-closing tags is img tag, which is also a self-closing tag, and also br tag, which is called as a line break, and it's also a self-closing tag. Okay, we will not talk about that today. Okay, so but you can, if you can see visually, the script tag is an opening tag and a closing tag. It has an opening tag and a closing tag. Okay. Now we are done with the first step. We just created a script tag right above the closing body tag in our index.html file. Now that's perfect. Okay. Now the most important part is that we have to provide more information to this script tag that we have created. So we have to provide more info for this tag. More info. More info about what? More info about what? So as you can see, if you can read this line, use the src attribute. So I hope you guys know about what's an attribute in the script tag to target the location of the JS file. Okay, just by opening the script tag doesn't mean that browser will know where the index.html, index.js file is, right? So in the last session, if you guys remember, we used a img tag, but using an img tag doesn't mean the browser know where the location of that specific image that we want to show up on our website, right? it doesn't really know. You have to use the src attribute in the img tag to uh, target the location of that image, so that browser will know that this image is present at so and so location, and then it will open that image in the website. Okay, just like that, in order to use the index.js or the JavaScript file in our index.html, you have to open the script tag and you have to provide more information to the script tag by using the src attribute. Okay, and this src attribute will take in the path, which is the location to the index.js file. Okay, now as you can see, as soon as I type in dot slash, it is giving me suggestions. So I want to import the index.js file here. Okay, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, now if I go back, okay, so we are done with these two things. So we are done with this one, as well as we created an index.html file, we created JS file, and then we imported the JS file to our index.html file. Perfect. So we just got started with JavaScript. I hope you guys are following along with me, and let me know if you guys have any questions. I will just answer those. Oh, I hope my voice is clear now, because I just changed my network, and if my voice sounds robotic to you guys, my mic is very good, but then there is an issue with the Microsoft Teams. So maybe just bear with me till the end of the session. Okay, I'm looking at the Q&A. Great, I'll just keep continuing for now. So guys, let's start with learning about variable. So what exactly is a variable? Let me just show it to you guys. What is a variable? What is a variable in a programming language? So guys, if you, I'm sure freshers from 23rd batch or 22nd batch, you guys know about programming languages already. You might have taken up a programming language in your first year college itself. So whether it could be Python or Java or whatever that is. So whatever the programming language that you learn, guys, there is something called as variables. Variables. So what this variables does is it basically provides you a space in your memory location to store some data. Okay, and the data could be anything. Okay, so let me just type it out for you. Occupies variables occupies space in memory location. Okay, and let me resize this one. Okay, and variables can be of different data types. Okay, variables will have different data types. They will have different data types. Okay, so I think freshers probably know about the programming language called as Python, where you just declare the variable with whatever the data type that is. Okay, and yeah, so speaking of data types, in JavaScript we also have different data types which are not similar to that of Java or Python, but then they're mostly common. Okay, the names differ, but they are mostly common. Okay, data types are data types across all of the programming language. I mean, the way the programming language interacts with your memory is the same. Okay, and yeah, so like I said, variables, simple way to understand is it basically occupies space in your memory location. And then variables will also have different data types. We will discuss about the different data types in detail. Okay, so yeah, so guys, in JavaScript we have to declare a variable. Okay, if you can read this heading, it says declaring a variable in JavaScript. Okay, you will get more idea if I talk about how we can declare a variable in JavaScript. Okay, so as you can read this line, it says there are three possible ways to declare a variable in JavaScript. Okay, one is var, 2 is let, 3 is const. Okay, we will talk about these three things in detail now. Okay, so yeah, if you can read this, use var, when the variable changes. Okay, and use const when the variable is fixed. Variable changes, variable is fixed. And let and var are the same. Okay, let and var are the same. Okay, let me demonstrate this one to you guys. So let me go back to my index.js file. Okay, so I'm in my index.js file. So what I can do here in my index.js file is I can declare a variable now. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, I can declare a variable now. I can do something like const. Okay, I will do something like var name equals to I want to store my name here. I will open the double quotes and followed by a semicolon. Okay. Now I just declared a variable, guys. But if you freshers who are watching this video, I hope you guys know about Python. So in Python, you declare a variables like this. You mention the name and you mention the value. Okay. But as you can see, the name, as you can see, if I hover over this name variable now, name is deprecated. So this is a JavaScript file, right? We cannot directly write the name, a variable name and followed by its value. We have to declare the variable. Okay, we have to declare the variable using var, let or const. So in this scenario, I have used the var keyword to declare the variable. Okay, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change my name. Let me just full name. So I just changed the name to full name. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change the value of that variable. Full name to let's say Virat. So I'm gonna change this name to Virat Kohli. Okay, Virat Kohli's full name is not just Virat, so his full name is Virat Kohli. So in the next line, I just reassigned the value to the full name variable to Virat Kohli. Okay, what happens in JavaScript is that JavaScript is an interpreted programming language. So which means it goes line after line. It first reads this line and it will read the second line and then it will read the third line. Okay, when it read the first line, it will store a open a memory location with the reference name as full name with the value as Virat. Okay, and in the second line it will see that okay it is empty and then it will proceed to the third line. Okay, and then it will realize that this full name variable already exists with some value. It will override the existing Virat value with the Virat Kohli value. Okay, because this variable name called as full name got initialized, got declared with var keyword, this full name variable can be overridden multiple times. Okay, but this is not the similar case if you declare a variable using the const keyword. Okay, as you can see, use var when the variable changes. Okay, and use const when the variable is fixed and will not change. Right, so now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use the const and I'm gonna mention the age and I'm gonna mention the age as what's the age of Virat Kohli? I think it is 35, I'm not sure. Okay, so Virat's age is 35. Now in the next line, I cannot change the Virat's age to 40, right? Because this variable has been instantiated with const. Okay, using the const. Okay, the VS Code is not providing me errors right now. There is some issue with linting and all of those, but yeah, this is an error. You cannot override a variable which has been declared as a constant in the upcoming lines of code. Okay, this will be marked as an error. Okay, so yeah, that is the overall difference between var and let and const, guys. So var and let works the same. Okay, if I can use last name as whatever that is, last name as Aurora or something like that, and I can literally change this last name as Virat or not Virat, Kohli is his last name. Okay, so I can override that variable. Okay, whether you use let or var, it means the same. Okay, I mean, there might be some people who are smart enough already. To be honest, var and let are not the same. There are a lot of things that keep changing with let and var. But for now, it is a good understanding here so far about let, var, and const. Okay, we will discuss more about the differences in let and var later on. Okay, but for now, mostly they work hand in hand. Okay, perfect. So I hope you guys understood about declaring a variables in JavaScript. And congratulations on making it so far because you just wrote your first lines of JavaScript code. But if you ask me, how do I execute this code? How do I run this code actually? Okay, you wrote your code, but you're not executing it, right? You're not sure, running this code. Okay, just like in Python, you click on this run button, which will be somewhere around top, right? You just click on the run button and the code runs, right? So how do you run the index.js file? Okay, make sure before you run the index.js file, your index.js file has to be imported in your index.html file. Okay, we will talk about running this index.js file in few more minutes. Okay. So this is just the basic implementation of what we have done so far, okay? And if you can see, I just created a variable called as var full name, which has been set to Virat, and the age has been declared using the const, which has been set to 33. Now full name can be overridden using some other value, whereas the age variable cannot be overridden. So as it says clearly, you cannot change the age variable to a different value since it's already declared using const. Perfect, guys. I hope you understood about let, const, and var. Okay. Now, guys, if you ask me why do we have let, const, and var, and why do we not have let, const, and var in Python? Why do we have it in JavaScript? Well, to be exact, there are different advantages of using let, const, and var, especially in your memory location. It's going to optimize the way the variables are being associated and how they interact with others. There are a lot of advantages of how let, const, and var is useful in JavaScript. Okay. We will talk about more about the usage and how it's going to optimize the way the variables are being initialized in the future. That is some advanced stuff, but for now, getting to know more about how let, const, and var are and how they are used is a good start. Okay, perfect. Now let's go to the next slide. Okay, this is a very random meme. I got it from the internet while I was learning JavaScript way back in last 3-4 years ago. So it says if the variable is constant, why is it a variable? All right, I hope you guys understood now because let us say if I declare a variable as const and I will say something like Virat. So guys, I just told something like I declared a variable name as const to Virat. Okay, if a variable is declared as a const, why is it called as a variable? Okay, so that was the meme all about. Okay, I hope you guys understood. Perfect. So let's go to the next one. So guys, if you look at real world, we have different types of data we deal with today. Okay, if you go to a shopkeeper and he will bill you some amount for whatever the purchase you made. Okay, he will bill you the amount in numbers. Okay, and he will talk to you in words, in sentences, in English or in some language. Okay, so there are different data types today. There is mathematics involved, there is English involved in day-to-day life. Okay, so the ultimate aim of programming languages is that we are trying to solve the real world problems, solve real world problems with the help of programming languages. Okay, let me just beautifully draw a line here. Perfect, this looks neat. Okay, so with the help of programming languages, we solve real world problems. Okay, so guys, if you talk about JavaScript more, JavaScript has been created by some other guy, right? His name is called Brendan Eich. We will talk about him later on. But then Brendan Eich is the person who created JavaScript. Okay, when he created JavaScript, he made it in such a way that people can interact with the real world, people can think about real world and solve the problems in the programming language, right? So whatever the complicated syntax that you study in programming languages is just useful for you to implement that programming language, okay, on a system level, okay. But in the real world, there are a lot of things that even programming languages can implement, okay. That is ultimately the thing that uh, that matters the most when it comes to programming languages. Okay, one good example is, let us also say, our VTOP. So the VTOP works a lot with data structures and algorithms, and especially one important thing that is fascinating about VTOP is how it manages a lot of data concurrency when it comes to different users booking their professors at the same time, right? So that's one challenging software engineering tasks. So it's fascinating how technology is changing today and how programming languages are able to help us today. Perfect. So yeah, if you talk about the real world of how the data is represented, the programming languages today that you look at are also made in such a way that they can mimic the way how the data is being exchanged in the real world. Okay, so for that reason, we have different types of data in different programming languages. I mean, I will repeat that once again. We have different types of data types in different programming languages. Okay. Now, if you look at this word called as primitive data types, primitive stands for system defined data types. Okay. So if I say system defined data types, you can also define your own data type, which is using the class keyword. But we will not talk about classes and all of those today. For now, I'll just leave it that way. We'll just talk about the system defined variables. I hope you guys know what is a string, right? A string is something that is enclosed within the double quotes or even the single quotes. Okay. It's plain English, plain text. That's it. A number could be 1, 2, 3, 4.05. So in Python, you have two. So in Python, you guys will have two separate data types. One is float, one is int. But here in So this is in Python, right? But here in JavaScript, both of them will come under a data type called as number, number number. So whether it is integer or whether it's a decimal floating point, it both of them will be coming under one data type, which is called as number. Okay, Boolean is the same in Python as well as in JavaScript. It is either true or false. That's it. Null we will talk about. Null we'll talk about undefined very soon. Okay. So yeah, here is an example. String could be something like this. Number is either integer or a decimal point, true or false for Boolean. So null means, guys, intentionally empty value. Okay. We'll talk about null more. Okay. We'll try to implement null in the upcoming slides. Okay. And if you look at this undefined data type, it says a variable is to initialize. There's an English grammatical issues here and there. Okay, never mind. A variable to be initialized. So a variable is initialized, but no value is given. So this will be of data type undefined. So what this sentence is saying is that you can, if you declare a variable like this using const, using something like age, but you did not provide it with any value. Okay, no value has been provided to this variable age. So this variable age will be of data type undefined. Okay, so that's what the sentence is saying all about. No worries, we will discuss that how we can do it and why we have to do it and all of this. Okay. Okay, there are something called as reference data types. Okay, there's something called as arrays. There's something called as objects, functions, and dates. We're not gonna look at this in today's session, but first we'll focus on the basic data structures and all of those. Okay, logging to console. So guys, in Python, if you know, there is something called as a terminal, right? In Python, there's something called as terminal. And so when I ask you to, hey, print this to terminal, you use this function, inbuilt function called as print, to print something to your terminal, right? So similar to this one, in JavaScript, we have something called as console. Okay, so using this console, we log something to the console. Okay, we basically print something to the console, just like how we print something to the terminal in Python. We console log something to the console in JavaScript. Okay, in JavaScript we call it as a console. In Python we call it as a terminal. Okay, so if I want to print something in JavaScript, I say I want to console log this to my console. Okay, so let's try to implement this. This looks something like this: console dot log brackets hello world. Okay, the syntax is very similar with in JavaScript in Python, except that in Python we don't have something like this. We have something like print directly. Okay, but yeah, here console is something called as an object, and this object contains a inbuilt function called as log, which basically takes an attribute called as hello world, which will be logged to the console. Okay, that's too much to take in for now. But yes, I think that's a pretty good start for now. So yeah, let's try to console log something to the terminal, guys. Why not? In the next line, I'll just type in console.log and the legendary OG hello world. Hello world. Okay, I'll just click Control S. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to my browser. Okay, now as I told you guys about previously how to run a JavaScript file. Okay, so guys, in order to run a JavaScript file, you have to run the index.js, index.html file first, because the index.html file has been imported here in the, I mean, the index.js file has been imported here in the index.html file. Okay, so now if you can see, this is already running. Okay, this is already running. If I click refresh, it's already running. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at the output of the console log that I just did in my VS Code. So the console log, I've done it here. Okay, make sure there's a semicolon at the end. Okay, now I will just click on, I'll just do the right click here. If you can see, there are a lot of options. Okay, I just right clicked somewhere in the random space here, okay, in my browser. So there are a lot of options here. If you can go down and click on inspect. Okay, as you can see, developer options in Chrome has shown up. So what are developer options? It's basically the inbuilt options for developers to interact with the code that they wrote. Okay, so that's why it's called as developer options, because it is open for developers and developers can use the developer options to interact with the code that they wrote. Okay, so this is how the developer options looks like. So if you are someone new to developer options, it's totally fine, or for some people the developer option shows up on the bottom, but I think it should be fine. It's still the same. So guys, if you look at this part, there is something called as elements. So there is something called as console, sources, network, and all of those. Okay, there are basically three sections here. This is one big section, and this is the second section, and this is the below one is the third section. So we don't have to worry about all the three sections for now. We'll just leave it that way. Okay, so down here we have something called as console. Okay, after elements there's something called as console. So guys, if you look at this console, it says hello world, right? I'll just close it and I'm gonna show it once again to you guys. You have to right click on the website, click on inspect, and click on console. And if you guys can see, there's something called as hello world. I'll just zoom it to you guys again. There is something called as hello world that has been console logged to the console, and it says this hello world is coming from the index.js file. Okay, and the index.js file has been given to the web browser. So if you can look at the lines of code, I'm trying my best here. Okay, never mind. Yeah, so that's how it works, guys. That's how you console log to your console. Okay, now I'm gonna change it to Virat Kohli. I'm gonna console log Virat Kohli. So as you can see, the change is shown up, right? That was very quick. So that's how you basically run your JavaScript. Okay. So I hope you guys are following along with me so far, and I hope there's no questions. Well, if you have any questions, please answer. Please ask it. Okay. Okay. Great. Now guys, I can also console log variable names, right? I can console log full name variable name. Okay, so there is a full name variable name here. I'm gonna console log that variable name. So if I go back, it is Virat Kohli. Okay, perfect. So that's how you console log something to your terminal, guys. So it's very simple. Okay, all right. Now if you can read the slide, it says data types in JavaScript. So let's play with declaring data types in and console logging them. So we will just work with console logging some of the data types and declaring some data types with some var, let, and cons, and let's try to console log them, and let's try to know more about data types. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna move down, and now I'm gonna start fresh. Okay, so guys, firstly I'm gonna implement the integer, the number data type. I'm sorry, I'm using integer, but in JavaScript we call it as a number data type. So I'm gonna call the variable as rank, and I'm gonna give an equal to sign. I'm gonna use 7. Okay. Now if I console.log, so guys, if you know in Python, in order to know the data type, in order to console log the data type of a specific variable, you use a keyword called as class. I think so. It is class. I think it is class. In JavaScript, we use something called as type of. Okay, type of is a keyword which is used to find the data type of a specific variable. Okay, now I will give a space and I will enter. Now I just created a variable with the data type value has been set to a number, and now I'm trying to console log the type of this variable. Okay, let's go back to my VS Code. Let's go back to my browser. Sorry. So guys, as you can see, the output is number, NUMB or number. Okay, I hope you guys got that. Now let's try to create const name or let subject const player and Rohit Shama. And now in the next line, I'll just console.log the type of player. Okay. Now, if I go to the browser, as you can see, the type of variable is string. Okay. The variable that we just created, which is player, has been set to Rohit Sharma, and this type of the variable player is string. Perfect. Now, the other variable we have is something called as null. Number of centuries retired. Okay, let's make it interesting. So I'll set the retired to null. Okay, now if I console.log, if I log the type of retired. Now I hope you guys understood what I just did. I just created a variable and I given it the value as null. So null is also a data type, guys. Okay, now I will try to console log the type of this variable null. So it is showing me as an object. We will talk about object later on. But all of this undefined and this null stuff come under the object. Okay, reference data types usually come under the data type called as object, but it's not a separate data type. That's how JavaScript actually works. It's not going to provide you the exact name of the data type, but it will say that it's an object. We'll talk about more that later on. Okay. Okay. So guys, you can basically set a variable value to null if you believe that there is no value that can basically replace this retired variable name. Okay. Now here in this scenario, we have a player named Rohit Sharma. Since he is not retired, we have set the retired variable to null. Okay. But then we can also set the retired variable to something called as false because he is not retired. Okay. If I go to the browser, as you can see, the output is Boolean. Okay, because true and false are Boolean data type, right? So it comes under Boolean data type. Okay. Okay, great. Now we'll talk about undefined. So I have a variable called as players. Okay. let players. Okay, this is perfect. Now I'm gonna console.log type of players. Players. Okay. So I just initialized a variable with players, and but I did not provide it any value. So let's take a look at the output. So it is undefined, right? So like I discussed before, if you create a variable with no value initialized to this variable, then that variable will be of data type undefined. Okay. What's the difference between null and undefined, guys? In null, we usually use a null keyword as a value provided to some variable. In our case, we have provided that as a value to retired previously. It is an intentionally empty value, but whereas undefined is not intentionally empty value, it is a data type that will be declared to a variable which has no value provided by the user. Okay, so yeah, that's how it works. And now in the next line, I'm gonna create an array. So I hope you guys know what's an array. Even in Python, we have arrays. In Python, we call it as list, and here we call it as an array. So in order to create an array, you first have to instantiate a variable. You have to declare a variable, and then you have to instantiate its value. The value could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Now in the next line, if I try to console.log numbers, I can console log dot the numbers. So as you can see, the numbers are being console logged 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's perfect. Great. So you learned about arrays now. And yeah, let's try to console log the type of numbers.
Okay, if I go back, it will show something called as object. Okay, so guys, if you talk about object, so as you can see, all the reference data types will be coming under a data type called as object. Okay, we'll talk about object later on. Okay, and yeah, perfect. So that's basic implementation of data types, different data types in JavaScript. There are other data types. Okay, we're not going to talk about other data types for now. Even in primitive data types, there are new concepts and new things coming over and over again. So we're not going to talk about all of those stuff for now. Okay. Perfect. So just a basic revision. So far, what we have done, we just know understood about the primitive data types, string, number, boolean, null, and undefined, and we just saw how all of these are implemented in our Visual Studio Code. Okay. Perfect. So that is just the beginning, guys. But you don't have to memorize all of these data types. It will come in handy for you. I mean, you guys know about Python and Java already, so you already have some prior programming experience. So you don't have to memorize this stuff. Okay. And yep. So let's try to do some mathematics in JavaScript. Okay. Simple mathematics like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Okay. I'll go to the next line and yep. Now I'll create something called as num1, which I'll provide it as a value 100, and then I'll create a value called as num2, and I'll give a value as 50. Now I'm gonna instantiate a variable called as the result. Okay. By default, the data type of this result variable will be undefined, right? It's not null, it is undefined. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the result value to, let us say, num1 plus num2, and I'm gonna console dot log result. Okay. Now if you can look at the output in the browser, as you can see, the sum of num1 and num2 variables is 100 plus 50, which is 150. Right. Now I'm gonna override this result variable with more operations, with this num1 minus num2. So I just did subtraction between these two variables, num1 minus num2. I'm gonna add a semicolon. Don't forget to add a semicolon at the end. Okay. If I look at, the answer is 50, which is num1 minus num2 is 50. Perfect. And then I'm gonna override this result variable with num1 divided by num2. What will be the output? 100 by 50 is 2. It is 2, right? Now I'm gonna do multiplication as well. I'm gonna multiply num1 asterisk num2. So I hope you guys can see the asterisk symbol. It's also present on your keyboard as well. You can just shift and press the key. And now if I look at the output, it's 5,000, which is 100 times 50, which is 5,000. So these are basic mathematics operations, guys. So it's very simple. Okay. So that's how it works. There is more mathematics in JavaScript that you can implement, just like I hope you guys know about the math object that is present in the math library that is present in Python. So similar to that, there is something called as math object in JavaScript, but we are not going to talk about that complex stuff for today. Okay. So perfect. This is just the basic implementation that is present in the slides that we just did. Okay. And yeah, now we'll talk about control statements, guys. So what is a control statement? So if some condition is true, you have to execute these lines of code. But if this condition is not true, then you should execute these lines of code. Okay, I hope you guys know about the if else statements, control statements in Java or Python, whatever the language that is. We're gonna see how this is implemented in JavaScript. Okay, it's very simple. Okay, if a condition is true, then some lines of code will be executed. If it is not true, then some other lines of code will be executed. That's it. If and else. Very simple. So let's see how it works. So let us suppose I have a dog at my home and I have instantiated a variable called as hungry. I'll say is hungry. Okay, if it is if the dog is hungry, okay, let us suppose I'll write dog. Okay, so variable is of the type boolean. The dog is hungry. And now I'm gonna use the if condition, and I'm gonna use console.log. So if the dog is hungry variable is set to true, then we have to feed the dog. Okay, else we have to console.log dog is not hungry. Okay, so there is a variable which is a condition. We are using this variable as a condition now. Okay, if this condition is true, if will be executed. Okay, and if this condition is false, else will be executed. Okay, let's take a look at the browser. So as you can see, the output is dog is not hungry because the condition is failing in the if condition, right? Because this variable has been set to false. But what if we set this to true? If the dog is hungry, then if is set to true, then the if condition will be executed and the console log will be feed the dog. Okay, so yeah, that's how it works. So this is a very simple implementation. So yep, that's it. And there are different other examples, like you can do something like if true, you can directly use the keyword true. Console dot log the condition is true. Okay, else console dot log condition is false. So yeah, it goes like that, guys. So yep. So if you look at the output, the condition is true. Okay, if I change this variable to false, false false, the condition is now false. Okay, perfect. So that's how it works, and yeah, it's very simple. Okay. Yep. So that is how the control statements in JavaScript actually work. These are just the basics of programming in JavaScript. Okay, control statements, data types, variables, and all of these are very basic stuff. Okay. And yeah, let's talk about logical operators and or. I hope you guys know and or in control statements in Python. If this condition and this conditions are true, then this happens. If either of these conditions is true, then this happens. Okay, I mean that may not have made much sense to you guys for now, but let's see how it actually works. Okay, now I'm gonna create if and okay, I'm gonna create few variables. Is happy true? Is married true? Okay, this is just a very another example. Okay, so I have two conditions here: is happy, is married. So if this both conditions are true, I have to console log they are happy and married. Okay, something like that. Okay, just an example. Okay, is happy, and if this both conditions are true, I'm gonna check for both conditions in this if condition. Okay, if is happy and is married, then I'm gonna console dot log they are happy and married. Okay, and if else it's if any of the conditions is false, then I have to console log they are either not happy nor married. Okay, this is just an example, guys. Don't get confused. Okay, I just made up this example right now itself. Okay, and yeah, so the main thing is that here I have two conditions: is happy and is married. So if these two conditions are true, only then it will be executed. Okay, or else the else part will be executed. Now, if I go to my terminal and see, as you can see, they are married is being executed is because is happy and is married conditions are being set to true. Right. So that's how it works, right? So let us suppose if I set one of the conditions to false, uh, FALSC false. Now, and means two conditions should be true. Only then the condition will be executed. Okay. But then if either of the conditions has been false, then it will not be executed and only else will be executed. And if I check the output, I'm gonna see something like they are either not happy nor married. Okay, so the else part clearly did not execute because of the or. Okay, uh, clearly because of the end. Okay, so what if I use the or operator here? Okay, either of these two conditions is true, then this condition will be executed. So in this scenario, we have this is married has been is true and is happy has been false. Now, if since is married is already set to true, then either of these conditions is already true, then this condition is going to be executed. Now, if I go take a look at the browser, as you can see, they are married and happy because our condition is basically checks for either of the two conditions is true or not, and condition checks for both conditions should be true. Okay, only then the and condition is will be executed and the final output will be true. Okay, so that's how it works. So this is all about mathematical fallacies and mathematical logic. I think you guys have already studied that in your +1 +2, and that's very similar to this one. And I hope you guys already know about this concepts in Python and Java. So there's not much to learn except that in Python we use the keyword called as and. Here we will use something called as this ampersand ampersand. I don't know if they call this ampersand or not. I think it is. So this is called as and. Okay, and this is called as or. In Python we use and keyword as well as or keyword. Okay, so that's how different things are. And in Java also we use ampersand ampersand and uh, this or condition this way. Okay, so this is how logical operators in JavaScript actually work. Okay, so that's just a very simple one. Okay, now let's take a look at the for loop, guys. Okay, loops in general. We'll talk about loops in general. So what is a loop? A loop is basically used to execute a sentence again and again. So guys, if I ask you to console log hello world 100 times, are you gonna just type in console.log hello hello world, and if I ask you to execute this hello world 100 times, are you gonna do something like this? No, right? I'm not gonna console log this 100 times like this. It's a waste of memory space and waste of files as well. Okay, we're not gonna do something like that. Okay, okay, so yep, we are gonna use something called as loops in programming. Let's see how a loop actually works. So there are two types of loops. Okay, one is a for loop and the other one is while loop. There is something called as do while loop. I'm not gonna discuss that today, but it's very similar to how it works in Java as well. Okay, yep. So this is the basic syntax of a for loop, guys. You use the keyword called as for followed by the brackets, and inside this brackets there are three conditions: initialization, condition, and increment. And Yep. So there's a very basic example over here which says for int I equal to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. So this loop is gonna be executed 5 times. I mean, I just told that it's gonna execute 5 times by looking at this condition, condition, instantiation condition and increment, because I is less than 5 and I is starting from 0, which means I will be this loop will be executed 4 times. Sorry, 5 times. Okay. Okay, let's try to console log hello world 10 times. Okay, I'm gonna use the per keyword. I'm gonna initialize a variable set to 0, and then I'm gonna say int let I equal to 0, and I'm gonna mention the condition I less than 10, I plus plus, and I'm gonna console dot log hello world. Now let's take a look at the output in the browser. So I hope you can see the code once again. I just instantiated the variable I equal to 0, and then I mentioned the condition which is I less than 10. Okay, which means the I is gonna execute till as long as I is less than 10, and then every step I will be incremented 1, 1, 1, 1, like that. Every increment, every loop, I will increment with one number. Okay. Now, if you look at the output, as you can see, hello world has been console logged 10 times. Okay, so hello world will not show up 10 times on your console. This is just something happening with the JavaScript output on the Chrome browser. As you can see, it is showing 10 already. Okay, which means this sentence has been executed 10 times. Okay. Perfect. So that's how it actually works, guys. And that's it about for loop. And yeah, so let's talk about while loop. Okay. Let me go back to the slides. So guys, while a condition is true, the loop should continue executing. Okay, while so and so conditions is being true, then the loop will be executed. Okay, and if you can look at the very basic syntax over here, it says it has initialized a variable I equal to 0, and as long as I is less than 5, this loop will be executed. Okay, and you have to make sure you have to terminate this I some or the other time. Okay, so if you're not mentioning this condition I plus plus, this loop will be executed till infinite times. Infinite times. If you're not mentioning this I plus plus here, okay, I plus plus has to be mentioned. Okay, you have to increment the condition that you are using in the while condition. Okay, it's an important task, or else your loop will be executed like infinite times. So I'm gonna execute this one, but first let me just initialize the variable I equal to 0. And then in the next line, I'm going to type in while, and if I less than 100, make it 10. I'm going to console log. I'm going to say hello world from while loop. So it gets interesting now. Okay. Now in the next line, I'm going to increment I plus plus, which means with every iteration, I is going to increment one time. Okay, which means at I equal to 10, this loop will terminate and it will come out of the loop. Okay, it will stop iterating as soon as the I is greater than 10. Okay, so that's how an while loop is executed. Okay, now if you go back to your VS Code, okay, there is an uncaught type error. Let's see what was the error. Okay, so there is an error here. That is console.log.og. It's not OG, it is just console.log. And if I look at the output, as you can see, the while loop has been executed 10 times. Okay, hello world from while loop. I will also make changes to the for loop, hello world from for loop. Okay, now this should look perfect. So there's a hello world from for loop, hello world from while loop. So yeah, that's how exactly the while loop and for loop works, guys. It's as simple as that. There's nothing much to remember. Okay, and make sure you guys are using this curly brackets, because I guess in Python it's gonna look something like this. For I in range 1, 100, there you will use something called as colon, and indentation, which looks like this. Okay, so there you will use indentation, but here we will use curly brackets to specify the scope. Okay, there we will use indentation, which is nothing but 4 spaces, which is equivalent to a tab. Okay, and yep, so that's how it works. So here in JavaScript, we use curly brackets. Perfect. So that's all about loops, guys. So we'll talk about functions. Okay, why not? We'll talk about functions. So I hope you guys already know about functions in JavaScript, functions in Python. So in Python, you use this keyword called as def, followed by the name of the function, followed by the brackets, which basically takes in some params, and then you're gonna have to execute some code and make sure you basically have to call this function, or else it's not gonna work, right? Name of the function, you have to call this name of the function. Okay, so that's how exactly things work. Okay, so this is how it works in Python, guys. I hope you guys know about this syntax in Python. Okay, functions, the way functions work in all of the programming languages are very same, guys. The core concepts are same, except there will be a difference in the syntax, but it's gonna be very easy. Okay, let's see how functions in JavaScript actually work. Okay, in order to create a function, so there's a very good good definition over here. So here this PPT slide says that function is a JavaScript. Functions in JavaScript are one of the fundamental blocks, fundamental building blocks, and a function is a set of statements. Okay, this sentence is important. Function is a set of statements that performs a task or calculations or calculates a value. Okay, and as you can see, it says functions allow you to define a block of code, give it a name, and execute it as many times as you want. Okay, this line makes a lot of sense. Okay, so yeah, that's how functions actually work. But let's see how it is being implemented in JavaScript. All right. Now, in order to implement this in JavaScript, the syntax looks something like this, guys. So it is very similar to Python, but there we will use a keyword called as def, which stands for definition. Here we will use a keyword called as function, and we give a space after this function keyword, and then we will mention the name of the function. Name of function. It could be any name followed by this brackets and followed by this curly brackets. Okay, and then whatever the line of code that you want to execute should be within this curly bracket. Okay, so it's as simple as that. Okay, I'm gonna create the function with the function keyword. Okay, and then I'm gonna name this function as say hello world, followed by the brackets, followed by the curly brackets, and I'm gonna console.log hello world from function. Great. Now, guys, if you can see, I'll just look at the output. So I'm having hello world from for loop, hello world from while loop, but I'm not seeing hello world from the function, right? What could be the reason? It's because I'm not calling this function, right? Once you declare a function, you have to call the function. Okay, you can call a function very similar to how you call a function in Python. You just have to name the function and you followed by the brackets. So that's how you call a function. Now, if you look at the output, as you can see, hello world from function has been console logged. Okay, as simple as that. Nothing much to worry about here. It's very easy. Okay, and yep, I hope you guys know about what's an attribute, right? So an attribute is basically a value that you pass into a parameter that is present in a function. Okay, I mean that's a very complicated thing that I just told, but I hope you guys know about attribute and attributes. What are attributes and what are parameters in Java and Python? If not, uh, let's discuss about parameters and attributes. Okay, so guys, parameters and attributes are the external variables that you provide to a function body from the outside to inside. Okay, that sounds confusing, but let's see how it works. So here, if you can look at this one, there is a function called as name, and it's taking in a parameter called as name. So guys, here we call name as a parameter, and this name parameter is being used inside the function scope here, name. Okay, hello plus name. Okay, now this we have to pass a value in on behalf of a name, so that that will be replaced inside the function block. So the value that I'm gonna pass is Karthik. Okay, and this will be replaced within the function block, and the output will show up. Okay, let's see how it works. Function uh, say hello. Okay, not say hello, greet. Okay, greet that person. Okay, now I'm gonna console.log. I'm gonna say hello. I hope you guys know about string concatenation, and in Python we use a comma or plus. Here also we use comma or plus, so it's the same in both Python and JavaScript. Here I can use the name, okay, followed by the semicolon. Now if I call the function greet, let's see what happens. Nothing really happened because it is showing me hello undefined. Okay, if you can see hello undefined is showing up because I did not provide the value for the name that will be replaced within the function scope, right? I have to provide the value. The value is nothing but an attribute. So in this scenario, I'll call something like Virat Kohli. Okay, Virat Kohli is an attribute that will be assigned to this parameter called as name. So guys, if you can see, if I hover my mouse over this name, it is showing me it is a parameter. Okay, and if I hover over this word called as Virat Kohli, it is an attribute. Okay, this attribute will be passed into this function, and the name variable that has been used within this function scope will be replaced with this new word called as Virat Kohli. Okay, as simple as that. Now it says hello Virat Kohli. Okay, let me add a space here. If I add a space here, it will look neat now. Yeah, hello Virat Kohli. Let's make the H capital. Now it looks fine. Yep, hello Virat Kohli. Yep, that's perfect. So guys, that's how you basically create a parameter and accept the attribute by when you call the function. Okay, so that's how you deal with parameters and attributes in JavaScript. Okay, as simple as that. Now guys, I hope you know about the return statement in functions in Python or Java. It is very similar to that in so okay, I'm taking a lot of reference from Java and Python, but I'm also re-explaining the concept from very scratch. Okay, you don't have to worry if you don't know Python or Java, because I'm re-explaining everything from very scratch. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay. Well, yeah. So in this scenario, we have something called as return statement, which is used to return the value that has been provided instead of console logging it. Okay, how it's gonna work. So let's see how we can perform addition operation with the help of function. Okay, now I'm gonna say something called as function add num1 comma num2 return num1 plus num2 num1 plus num2. Okay, this looks perfect. So we can pass num1 value, num2 value, and we will be returned with num1 plus num2 as a result. So that's what we want, right? We will pass in two variables as an input and we will get an output. Okay. So guys, you can also refer with functions with the concept that you learn as functions in your +1, +2. There they will teach you about domain range of a function, how to find the domain of a function, how to find the range of a function. So it is very similar to how the domains work in mathematics. In programming also, it is very similar. Okay, there's nothing much to get confused about. Okay. Now I'm gonna call this function add. I'm gonna say 1, 2. So if you can see, the 1 will take the value num1 and 2 will take the value num2. Okay, now if I go to my browser and see, I will not get any output, right? So the last output is hello Virat Kohli, which is from the previous function. But how can I get the output? So here, if you guys see, if you compare these two functions, greet and add, greet function is directly console logging the output to the console, whereas this add function is not console logging anything to the console. It's just returning the output. Okay, it's just returning the output, but it's not console logging. So you have to console log this one. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a console.log and I'm gonna pass the function here. So whatever the output that this add function returns will be console logged. Okay, now if you look at the output, it will be 3. Perfect, right? I hope that makes sense. I hope how the return statement works made a lot of sense to you guys. Okay. And yeah, so that's how it actually works. And then yep, I think so yep, that's how much I have planned for today's session. I think we have came to the end of the session. We still have 2 minutes left, so we can talk about the history of JavaScript. Okay, guys, it's gonna be interesting. Okay, and I will make it interesting for you guys. Okay, so back then there is a company called as Netscape, which used to control 80% of the web browser market. So Netscape is a company. If I go to Google and I type for Netscape. So Netscape is like the Facebook, the it's like the Facebook, the Apple, the Meta kind of company back then. So it's one of the most popular companies back then. Okay, Netscape is this company. Okay, it's an internet company back then. Okay, and yeah, like you see, it is a web browser company. It has a web browser, and people used to use the web browser. And almost 80% of the people who are on internet back then use the Netscape web browser. Okay, but then in the browser there was no JavaScript, guys. There is no JavaScript. Okay, and the company founders, Netscape founders, felt that they need a programming language that will help users to interact with the websites. Okay, and then they hired a software engineer named Brendan Ike. So Brendan Ike is the name of the person. He's a software engineer. Okay, and this person is very crazy enough that after 10 days, he created the first version of JavaScript and he called it as a Mocha. Mocha is the name of the programming language that he called when he created JavaScript. Okay. And the syntax of this Mocha is very similar to that of Java, since both of them are bracket languages. Okay, if you can notice, I've used a lot of curly brackets when I started writing code in JavaScript a few minutes ago. So that's what is very similar to that of Java. In Java also we use curly brackets. Okay, but under the hood, guys, Java and JavaScript are very different. Java and JavaScript are completely different. It's like car and carpet. What's the difference between a car and a carpet? It's completely different, right? Both are two different things, but their name looks very similar, but both are different things. So Java and JavaScript are that different, okay? And then comes Microsoft. Now Microsoft came and they wanted to launch their own web browser, and they called the historical Internet Explorer. I hope every one of us has ever used Internet Explorer. Okay, back then when I was in my class 3, I started using a Windows 7 computer and Windows XP. Actually, the first computer operating system that I used was in Windows XP, and I mean we all have used Windows XP, and the default web browser was Internet Explorer, which was created by Microsoft. Okay, so what they have done, these Microsoft people, they basically have reverse engineered this JS created by Brendan, and they used it in their Internet Explorer. Okay. Now what happened was that there is a lot of issues happening here and there. Netscape actually approached this company called as European Computer Manufacturers Association. So it's called as ECMA. Okay, which is a company that sets standards for IT industry. So just like IEEE and some other companies that set standards that basically set the standards, this ECMA is one of the companies that set standards for IT industries. Okay, so now ECMAScript was released. So since Netscape has approached the ECMA people thought about it and they released the very standardized version of JavaScript, which is called as ECMAScript today. And this is a very standard one now. Okay, later in 1999, they released ES3, which stands for ECMAScript 3. So which has a lot of bug fixes and a lot of changes happened and it became much better. ES3 is the earliest superpower back then. Okay, people used ES3 a lot. Developers used ES3 a lot to build the websites. Okay, but then what happened was that in 2000, tragedy has happened because the internet bubble happened. A lot of people started investing in the internet companies, but these internet companies did not show any results to them, and thus a lot of people got laid off, and somehow few companies survived, and Microsoft is one such company that survived. Okay, and and boom, if Microsoft survived, what would have happened? Well, the Internet Explorer taken over the 90% of the entire market. And yeah, it got really interesting then. So Internet Explorer is the most popular browser, and it surpassed that Netscape web browser, and it became the most popular browser. Okay, but then the real OG came. Okay, everybody is a gangster until the real gangster comes in. If you look at this one, in September 2nd of 2008, the legendary Google Chrome was released, and then nobody has ever looked back. Okay, and also proudly Google Chrome has been developed by one of our Indian, which is Sundar Pichai at Google offices. So it was one of his ideas back then. Okay, and it literally taken over the entire web browser market. Okay, and it comes with a V8 engine. We'll talk about V8 engine. It's a very complicated software. I mean, you don't have to learn about it now. V8 engine is a very popular software tool, and even there are softwares today that like Unreal Engine and Unity are built on top of V8 engine. Okay, and so yeah, later in 2009, there is something called as Node.js, which made JavaScript to run on server side. We will talk about how JavaScript works on client side and server side later on. Okay, great. Now in 2010, many libraries like frameworks came for JavaScript. There is something called as Backbone.js. There's something called as Angular.js. So these are all the frameworks that came for JavaScript. We'll talk about what's a framework, but for now, in simple words, framework is something that is built on top of an existing programming language. As simple as that. A framework is something that makes your life easy writing that programming language. Okay, so that's very simple word, simple in simple terms how you put a framework as. Okay, yeah, in 2010 there are a lot of frameworks that got released, but in 2009 what happened was ECMA released ES5, which came with a lot of bug fixes and also supports JSON. We'll talk about JSON later, but then you have to remember ES5 has been released in the year 2009. Okay, so guys, all of this history is not needed for you guys for interviews, but it is just for uh, pulling your interest to JavaScript. That's it. All right. Now in 2006, the legendary ES6 has been released. Okay, this has been the ultimate game changer. So when ES6 got released, people never really thought about any other programming language other than JavaScript. It became the most popular programming languages till then. Okay, and it came with a lot of added features and all of those stuff. Okay, yeah, all of this stuff is not needed for you guys. It only confuses you. But then yeah, this is how it works. And finally, in the year 2015, the OG React.js was released by Facebook. So if you guys don't know about React.js, it is also one of the frameworks of JavaScript, and it is the ultimate web developer framework for JavaScript. It's just really good. Even I learned the React.js and then I learned Next.js. It's one of the best things. We'll take a session for React.js later on in the upcoming sessions. Okay. So yeah, if you can read this sentence, always bet on JavaScript. Okay, and it's very true. You can always bet on JavaScript because it evolved consistently over a period of time. There are a lot of programming languages that came while JavaScript came, guys. Okay, back then there are programming languages like many, like there are a lot of programming languages, and we even have programming languages like Rust today, which do not have a proper community because people are very crazy about JavaScript. Okay, there's a lot of community with JavaScript, and it has evolved a lot. Okay, even if you go to Google Chrome and go to not to ChatGPT, if you go to x.com, which is the Twitter, and if you search for, okay, I already searched it last night. Thank you JavaScript. You can search for thank you JavaScript. You can see a lot of people posting Thank you, JavaScript. People are very happy. People got rich. I mean, this is just a meme, but then JavaScript can really get you rich. Okay. Okay, here this person says thank you, JavaScript, because JavaScript is paying him for his meals. So here this person has posted his GitHub Rapid profile, and here in his top languages, JavaScript is one of the top programming languages for him. And yeah, here somebody has posted thank you, JavaScript, new MacBook Pro. He says that he just bought a MacBook Pro with JavaScript coding and all of that stuff. So okay, and yeah, so it goes on. JavaScript is just one of the most popular programming languages today. So it's fascinating how JavaScript has evolved over a period of time. And yes, all I can say is that you can always bet on JavaScript. Yep. And there's a meme here. It says, I'm a JavaScript expert. This person says, I'm a JavaScript expert. And she says, oh yeah, name 15 frameworks. Launch it this month. He says, that's on me. I said the bar below. Okay. So the thing is, like I said, JavaScript has a lot of frameworks, which means people are really crazy about that language. People build on top of this programming languages and build a lot of frameworks. Like React.js is one such framework, and Angular is one such framework, and Vue.js is one such framework. There are a lot of other frameworks like even I cannot name those frameworks because even I did not use a lot of frameworks. Okay, so yeah, if ultimately you need to understand that if people are building frameworks on top of a programming languages, like in this meme they say hundreds of frameworks that has been built on top of JavaScript, which means JavaScript is that popular. Okay, it is the second most popular programming languages that comes next to Python. Python is always the most popular, and then JavaScript is the second popular. Okay. And yeah, I hope you guys understood the very fundamentals of JavaScript today. It's very simple. We just discussed the very basic things today, and I hope that made a lot of sense to you guys. And I hope you guys understood a lot of things. Um, yeah, I think please wait in the session. I think there's gonna be a scanner that I'm gonna share with you guys so that you guys can fill the form from that scanner and you can mark your attendance there. So I hope my screen is visible. So you guys can just scan this QR code and just give your attendance, guys. You can do it. Yep. Okay. There are a lot of questions. I think I missed out with all of them. Okay, I will answer all of your questions one by one. Let me start with the first question. Bro, what's the difference between Java and JavaScript? I think I already answered this question. So, Mr. Anonymous, Java and JavaScript are completely different. Java is mostly used for developing robust applications today. So the data structures, if you want to study data structures, I highly recommend you do Java. But then JavaScript is completely for see, even today we can build mobile applications, web applications, desktop applications with help of JavaScript. Okay, JavaScript became that popular. There's a framework called as Electron.js, using which you can use to develop the desktop applications. Okay, JavaScript became popular, but Java is always the OG. And yeah, coming to your point, which says what's the difference? Well, they both are completely different. Okay, it's like car and carpet. Okay, JavaScript has applications with huge applications in building websites, more robust and all. But Java has more advantages in building mobile applications, and we can also use Java for building backend for a website. But then JavaScript is mostly popular because we can use JavaScript to write client-side application code. Okay, I mean that sounds a bit complicated for now because JavaScript works different on client as well as on server. We'll talk about that later on. Okay, I hope that made sense to you. Somebody is asking, can we get multiple JavaScript files to HTML file? Yes, yeah, we can do that. We can add a lot of JavaScript files and we can add all of them to the HTML file, and that's how it's work. So what's the OG here? If you ask me Java and JavaScript, what's the OG between these two? Java is the OG. Java is always the OG. It is always the best. And comes the JavaScript. But if you ask me whether JavaScript is more popular than Python, then I would say JavaScript. You can make a lot of money learning JavaScript than learning Python. And of course, today AI is taking over the world, so maybe learning Python will give you more. Will will help you make more money than learning JavaScript. Sadly, okay. Anyways, Uh, yeah, somebody's asking, Mr. Anonymous is asking, so JS code output won't appear on web page? Yes, exactly, that's right. JS code will not appear on the web browser until and unless you import it into an index.html and you run it. It won't directly run by the web browser. Okay, you have to go to the console and check for the output. Yeah, browser will understand it, but whenever you run a website from your local, the browser, you have to pass in the index.html file to the browser, not the index.js file. So that's why when I was explaining you guys, when I run the website, I always make sure that I am on the index.html file, but not on my index.js file. When I am on my index.html file, I click on run live server. The live server will run. The index.html will be given to the web browser. At the same time, the web browser will read the script tag that is present in my index.html, and the corresponding JavaScript file will be executed on the console in the web browser. Okay. So yeah, so that's how it works. Okay. Bro, do we have HTML session or is it the last one? I mean, if you guys want another HTML session, we can do it because learning HTML is like the very huge thing. There are a lot of tags that come into place, and there is so much to learn in HTML as well. But even me as a developer today, I don't know all of the tags that are present. So it's totally fine. If you want a revision for the HTML session, there's a video uploaded on the YouTube channel. The session has been recorded already, so you guys can go to the YouTube channel, call us Program It Your Way. I've already shared the links on the WhatsApp group. If you're not there in WhatsApp group, make sure you join the WhatsApp group. And the session has been already been recorded, so you guys can just check it out. Yep. Okay, can we get the level of knowledge necessary to do things like what you mentioned from these sessions? Uh, Mr. Anonymous, see, these sessions are like, since we are college students, we will not be getting much time to handle a lot of sessions. Okay, even I have to sit for my placements, and uh, these sessions are ultimately meant for providing you guys a baseline, right? So in your college, they won't explain you much of JavaScript, much of HTML, much of uh, CSS. So with these sessions, we are just trying to help you guys learn more about web development starting from your first year onwards, because you will be having web technologies course in second or third years, but it's gonna take a while. You may have to wait for another 1 year to take up that course. But with this course, it will provide you guys a baseline. But I highly recommend you start registering for a Udemy course to start learning web development from today onwards. Okay, there's a question called as we are not getting any errors showing in the VS Code as you got when changing the const variable. Which extension are you using, or how can we get this live code updates? Okay. Yes, Mr. Anonymous, I think, yeah, like I said, once you initialize a const variable, okay, you're talking about the extensions, right? So I'll provide you the extensions. So what happens is that in VS Code, there are some extensions that will basically check your syntax even while you're typing in. Okay. Uh, so those extensions, I think I have already provided in the PPT. Okay, I will share the PPT with you guys on the Start the Web WhatsApp group. In that PPT, you will find the extensions that are needed. Okay, so that it will also prompt you with the errors in the VS Code itself. Okay, I hope that answers your questions. I belong to VIT. So, what do you mean you belong to VIT? Okay, okay. So when the next episode is going to be conducted for JS, I think probably the next session will be on JS and will be extended to some project. I'm not sure. I'll discuss with the team and I'll let you guys know. How to get internship on web development. Okay, one of the platforms that really worked for my friends and for me as well is Internshala. You guys can go on Internshala and find for some jobs. But other than that, one of the platforms that I really like is LinkedIn. But 99% of the people don't know how to use LinkedIn. So Internshala is a much easy platform to get the job. But if you know how to use LinkedIn, you guys can watch a lot of, or maybe we can make a session on how to use LinkedIn properly to find a job. And yep. So you guys, anyways, you guys can definitely watch some YouTube videos to learn more about how to find internships on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is one good platform. Other than that, there is Internshala, which is the priority. You guys can get an internship there itself on Internshala. You guys can use it. Other than Internshala, there is a platform called as Blue Learn, which was started by one of my friends called as Harish. He's a YouTuber and he's a Lulan is like it's a 200 crore company today, so it's in Bangalore based. So you guys can check out his app, Lulan app. It's on the Play Store or it's on the iOS store as well, so you guys can check it out. It's also for internships. So I hope all of the questions are answered, and I hope all of you guys have already filled the form, and maybe we can end the session now. You guys can leave if you don't have any questions. Okay, bro, will you teach React.js and Node.js as well? See, guys, there's a programming YouTube channel that I have where I'm thinking of teaching Next.js, React.js, and Node.js. So you guys can check out that YouTube channel later on. The videos are already recorded for React.js and Next.js already. I recorded them. I will upload them very soon. You guys can check out the YouTube channel called as Program It Your Way. Even today's episode will be uploaded there. Okay. I'm not sure if I will be able to make those sessions live here because this sessions are mostly focused on the basics. React.js is like you will take a lot of time to learn React.js. So yeah, it will take a lot of time. Yep. Many JS versions are coming nowadays. I'm sorry, my voice has many JS versions are coming nowadays, which would be good to start. Like start direct from Node.js or React.js, or we have to start from JS like basics. Yes, Anonymous, I think the answer to this question is you have to start from the first principles, right? You have to understand the JavaScript principles. You have to understand how the language actually works. So if you understand how JavaScript actually works, maybe in the future you can build your own JavaScript framework, right? So learning JavaScript is very important. You should not jump to React.js directly without learning the basics of JavaScript. And there is a concept called as DOM, which is called as document object model, which is important for you to understand how the web used to function without React.js and Node.js and all of that even came in 2010 like that. Even before that, the web used to work with just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You need to understand how exactly the websites were used to build using just HTML, CSS, and JS, and yeah, the basics are important. So make sure you learn JavaScript very well. I highly recommend you take up a course on the internet, on Udemy or Coursera or EDX. Take up a HTML, CSS, JS course and start learning web dev. Yep. How much knowledge is required to get an internship on web dev? Okay, good question. So you need to have a knowledge of React.js. If not, you can also take up Vue.js or even any other frameworks that you like to. Okay. Okay, so I recommend there is you guys need to have a knowledge of at least one of the React.js or one of the JavaScript frameworks to actually get a good internship. Okay. Okay, guys, I think you guys can leave and we can end the session. Aditya, can you end the session?